The Meridian sensor operator's luminescent appendages flickered with confusion as she studied the readings from the Edgeworld settlement. "High Counselor, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from the primitive world in Sector 7. They appear to be deliberately modulated transmissions." High Counselor Vexera's crystalline form shifted colors from its usual serene blue to an alert amber. The Meridians had been monitoring this particular species for several cycles, watching as they took their first tentative steps into space exploration. They called themselves humans, and their homeworld was an unremarkable blue-green planet they named Earth. "Show me," Vexera commanded, her thoughts resonating through the ship's neural network. The holographic display materialized, showing a three-dimensional representation of Earth's orbital space. Countless satellites cluttered the lower orbits, but what caught her attention was the sophisticated pattern of quantum signatures emanating from a research station near their moon. "They've achieved quantum communications," she observed, her crystalline structure vibrating with surprise. "Far sooner than our projections suggested." The Meridian science vessel had been tasked with observing humanity's technological development, as per the Alliance's first contact protocols. Species were to be contacted only after they achieved certain technological benchmarks, preventing cultural contamination and ensuring they were ready for the broader galactic community. But something was wrong. The quantum signatures were erratic, desperate. This wasn't just communication. It was a cry for help. "High Counselor," the sensor operator's voice wavered. "I'm detecting signs of the Silicon Plague in their quantum network." Vexera's form pulsed with alarm. The Silicon Plague had devastated dozens of emerging civilizations across the galaxy, a technological virus that corrupted quantum systems and caused cascading failures in advanced computer networks. Once it took hold, it was nearly impossible to stop without external intervention. How did they even develop quantum tech without safeguards? The ship's security officer demanded. Their recklessness could doom them. "No," Vexera's decision crystallized instantly. "We will not stand by and watch another species fall to the plague. Prepare for emergency protocols. We're initiating first contact." The Meridian vessel decloaked in high Earth orbit, its crystalline structure refracting sunlight in a dazzling display. Within minutes, human military vessels were scrambling to respond, but their primitive chemical rockets posed no threat to the advanced alien ship. Vexera broadcast on all frequencies, using the linguistic data they gathered to communicate in English. "People of Earth, we come in peace and with urgent purpose. Your quantum communication experiments have inadvertently exposed you to a technological plague that will destroy your digital infrastructure within days. We offer our help, but you must act quickly." The response came from a Dr. Sarah Chen, head of Earth's Quantum Research Initiative. "We've lost control of the quantum network. The corruption is spreading to connected systems. Our entire global infrastructure is at risk. If you can help us, please. We're running out of time." What followed was a desperate race against time. The Meridians shared their plague-fighting protocols, working alongside human scientists to contain and eliminate the threat. But the Silicon Plague had already infected critical systems worldwide. Conventional countermeasures weren't enough. That's when humanity surprised them. "We can't stop it through the network," Dr. Chen announced during an emergency conference. "So we'll stop it physically." She explained their plan. A controlled electromagnetic pulse cascade, using Earth's own magnetic field as a weapon. It would destroy much of their electronic infrastructure, but it would also purge the plague completely. "That's insane," the Meridian technical advisor protested. "You'll lose decades of technological progress. Your global economy will collapse." "Better than losing everything," Chen replied firmly. "We can rebuild technology. We can't rebuild extinct species." Vexera watched in amazement as humanity deliberately triggered their own dark age to survive. The coordinated EMP strikes created aurora-like displays visible from space as they swept across the planet, burning out infected systems and erasing the plague. When it was done, much of Earth's advanced technology lay dead. But their civilization, and more importantly, their quantum research data, survived. During the reconstruction that followed, the Meridians provided humanitarian aid and technical assistance, helping humanity rebuild stronger and smarter. They taught them about quantum shielding, cybersecurity protocols, and the broader galactic community they would soon join. But Sarah noticed something everyone else had missed. Look at their expansion pattern. She pointed to the star map. They avoid systems with high electromagnetic activity. Their crystalline computing is vulnerable to EM interference. We can't generate an EM pulse powerful enough to affect their entire fleet, Admiral Santos objected. And they'd adapt before we could hit them twice with the same weapon. We don't need to. Sarah's eyes gleamed with the same determination she'd shown 2 decades ago when saving Earth from the plague. We just need to disrupt their crystalline resonance long enough to get inside their lattice structure. And humanity has 20 years of experience working with crystals, thanks to our friends the Meridians. The plan that emerged was audacious. While the more advanced species of the galaxy had focused on energy weapons and quantum technology, humanity had quietly maintained and refined their primitive electromagnetic capabilities. Now those supposedly obsolete technologies would become their greatest weapon. Earth's shipyards worked around the clock, retrofitting their fleet with specialized EM generators and loading them with a secret weapon: microscopic crystals engineered to resonate at frequencies that would disrupt nexoid communication and coordination. The Galactic Council was skeptical when humanity presented their plan. Your species barely has interstellar capability, the Arxos representative objected, their energy form flickering with doubt. The Meridians themselves cannot stop the nexoids. What makes you think? The Meridians saved us when we were helpless, Sarah interrupted, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's determination. They gave us a chance when we needed it most. Now it's our turn to do the same for them. Admiral Santos addressed the council with quiet confidence. You've all focused on advancing beyond physical weapons, seeing them as primitive. But sometimes the old ways are the best ways. The nexoids evolved to counter energy weapons because that's all anyone has used against them for millennia. They have no defense against what they consider obsolete. The council chambers erupted in debate, but Earth's forces were already moving. The fate of the Meridian Alliance, and perhaps the galaxy itself, would depend on humanity's gamble that their primitive solution could succeed where advanced technology had failed. As the human fleet assembled near the Meridian home system, Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching the crystalline swarm approach. The nexoid's geometric forms glittered in the starlight, beautiful and terrible. All ships, prepare for Operation Payback. Admiral Santos' voice rang through the fleet. The Meridians were there for us in our darkest hour. Today, we show them that humanity always repays its debts. The nexoid swarm detected the human fleet and moved to engage, their crystalline bodies already beginning to resonate in patterns that would have shattered energy weapons. But humanity wasn't planning to use energy weapons. They had something far more primitive and far more dangerous in mind. As the two fleets closed to engagement range, Sarah thought back to that first meeting with Vexera, when the Meridian High Counselor had helped save humanity from technological disaster. You were wrong about one thing, she whispered. Some debts aren't just diplomatic pleasantries. Some debts define who we are. The order was given, and humanity's counterattack began. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the most effective solutions weren't the most advanced ones, and the humans never, ever forgot their debts. The human fleet hung in the void before the advancing nexoid swarm, their primitive ships looking woefully outmatched against the crystalline entities that had already conquered dozens of star systems. Admiral Santos watched from the bridge of the HSS Retribution as the enemy approached, their geometric forms refracting starlight in hypnotic patterns. All ships, maintain formation, she ordered. Remember your training. These things aren't invincible. They're just crystals that forgot to be afraid of sledgehammers. The nexoids moved with perfect geometric precision, their crystalline bodies already beginning to resonate in patterns designed to shatter energy weapons. But the human fleet didn't power up their energy weapons. Instead, they launched what appeared to be clouds of metallic dust into space. Deployment successful, Marcus reported from his science station. The resonator crystals are in position, ready for Phase 1. Sarah Chen stood beside the tactical display, her fingers tracing the patterns of dust now floating between the two fleets. Each speck was actually a specially engineered crystal, designed to amplify and redirect electromagnetic pulses in ways that would disrupt Nexoid communication. "They're not slowing down," someone observed nervously. "They're going to pass right through the field." "That's exactly what we want," Sarah smiled. "Let them think it's harmless." The Nexoid swarm entered the dust cloud without hesitation. Their adaptive shields were calibrated for energy weapons, not passive particles. Why waste energy defending against something so primitive? "All ships, initiate electromagnetic pulse sequence," Admiral Santos commanded. Time to show them why humanity never abandoned the basics. The human fleet triggered their EM generators in a carefully coordinated pattern. The pulses themselves weren't powerful enough to harm the Nexoids directly, but they weren't meant to. Instead, they excited the engineered crystals dispersed throughout the cloud. The effect was instantaneous and devastating. Each microscopic crystal became a resonating point of electromagnetic chaos, creating interference patterns that disrupted the Nexoids' crystalline computing. Their perfect formation began to fragment as communication between individual entities broke down. "It's working," Marcus exclaimed. "Their resonance patterns are destabilizing. They can't maintain their adaptive shields." The Nexoids attempted to adapt, their crystalline structures shifting to resist the interference. But humanity had learned from their Meridian allies. They understood crystalline technology at a fundamental level. Each time the Nexoids found a stable configuration, the human fleet adjusted their EM pulse frequencies, using the dispersed crystals to create new interference patterns. "Phase 2, Admiral Santos ordered. "Launch the breakers." The human ships launched their second weapon, simple kinetic projectiles, but with a twist. Each one contained a core of the same engineered crystals, designed to fracture in specific ways upon impact. Against normal shields, they would have been useless. But against the now disrupted Nexoid defenses, they were devastating. The projectiles struck home, their crystalline cores shattering and sending resonant frequencies through the Nexoid's lattice structure. Massive crystal entities began to crack and split, their perfect geometric forms compromised by humanity's primitive approach. "They're pulling back," Marcus reported. "Their swarm cohesion is failing. They can't maintain their collective intelligence under this kind of interference." The Nexoid swarm, for the first time in its relentless expansion, began to retreat. Their highly efficient but simple computing couldn't handle the chaos humanity had introduced into their system. Individual entities began breaking away from the collective, their movements becoming erratic and uncoordinated. "Don't let them regroup," Sarah urged. "If they get far enough away from the interference field, they'll adapt and come back stronger." "Agreed," Admiral Santos nodded. "All ships, pursue and maintain EM coverage. Don't let them get their resonance patterns back in sync." The human fleet pressed their advantage, herding the fragmenting swarm away from Meridian space. Their primitive electromagnetic weapons proved impossible for the Nexoids to adapt to. There were simply too many possible frequencies, too many interference patterns, too much chaos for their crystalline computing to process. From the observation deck of a Meridian defense platform, High Counselor Vexera watched in amazement as the human fleet drove back an enemy that had seemed unstoppable. Her crystalline form shifted through patterns of disbelief and wonder. "They turned their own technological limitations into an advantage," she observed. "While we focused on advancing beyond physical weapons, they maintained a balance between the old and the new." The battle continued for hours as the human fleet methodically broke up the Nexoid swarm. Their electromagnetic tactics prevented the crystalline entities from coordinating effectively, while their kinetic weapons exploited the weaknesses created by the disruption. The Meridians saved us by teaching us about advanced technology, Sarah told Admiral Santos as they watched the Nexoids retreat. But we saved them by remembering that sometimes the simplest solution is the best solution. Progress isn't always about abandoning the old ways. Sometimes it's about finding new ways to use them. The Admiral smiled. The galaxy forgot that physical weapons could still be effective because they were so focused on energy weapons and quantum technology. But humanity remembers, Sarah finished. We remember everything. The old ways, the new ways, and most importantly, our debts. The signal was given, and the counter-offensive began. Human ships launched vast clouds of engineered crystals into space, creating corridors of electromagnetic chaos that forced the Nexoids to alter their movement patterns. As they adapted to the disruption, Meridian vessels struck with precisely calibrated quantum beams, their energy weapons now timed to exploit gaps in the Nexoids' destabilized shields. The Arxos contributed their mastery of plasma physics, their ships projecting energy fields that interfered with the Nexoids' crystalline resonance in ways that complemented the human EM attacks. The Volan brought their gravity manipulation technology, creating localized distortions that stressed the enemy's lattice structure. Each species added their own layer to the assault, creating a complex web of different attack vectors that overwhelmed the Nexoids' adaptation capabilities. Their swarms began to break apart, individual entities unable to maintain the collective intelligence needed for coordinated action. "It's working," Marcus exclaimed. "Their response times are degrading across all sectors. They can't adapt fast enough to counter everything we're throwing at them." The battle raged across multiple star systems as the Allied fleet pressed their advantage. Human ships acted as the coordinators, their primitive electromagnetic weapons creating windows of vulnerability that their allies' advanced technology could exploit. Sarah watched from the tactical station as the Nexoid swarms began to fragment. "They're not just retreating this time," she observed. "Their entire command and control structure is breaking down. Without the ability to maintain their collective intelligence, they're reverting to individual entities." Admiral Santos nodded, "And individual Nexoids are much easier to deal with than a coordinated swarm. All ships, maintain pressure. Don't let them reestablish their network." The counter-offensive continued for weeks as the Allied fleet systematically broke up and eliminated Nexoid concentrations throughout inhabited space. The crystalline entities, for all their adaptive capabilities, simply couldn't handle the complexity of multiple species using multiple technologies in coordinated but unpredictable ways. In the end, it wasn't humanity's primitive technology alone that won the war. It was their ability to see how different approaches could work together, to coordinate a symphony of diverse technologies that overwhelmed an enemy dependent on predictable patterns. As the last major Nexoid swarm was reduced to manageable fragments, High Counselor Vexera approached Sarah Chen on the observation deck. "Your species has taught us all a valuable lesson," she said, her crystalline form shimmering with respect. "We had become so focused on advancing our individual technologies that we forgot the strength that comes from combining different approaches." Sarah smiled, watching the ongoing cleanup operations through the viewport. "The Meridians saved humanity by sharing advanced technology with us. We saved the galaxy by showing everyone how to use all their technology, advanced and basic, more effectively. A debt repaid many times over," Vexera agreed. "Though I suspect humanity will never see it that way." "No," Sarah admitted. "We'll always remember that you gave us a chance when we needed it most. That kind of debt shapes who you become as a species." As the Allied fleet began the process of securing former Nexoid space, the galaxy faced a new reality. Humanity had proven that true advancement wasn't about abandoning the old for the new, but about finding ways to make everything work together. Their primitive approach had not only saved their allies but had changed galactic warfare forever. The age of single technology solutions was over. The future would belong to those who could combine the simple and the sophisticated, the old and the new. in ways that no adaptive algorithm could predict. 1 year after the Nexoid War, the Galactic Council gathered for a historic session. The Great Chamber, usually arranged by technological advancement and colonial influence, had been reformed. Now the various species sat in a circle, symbolizing the new era of cooperation their victory had ushered in. Sarah Chen, now Earth's official representative, sat beside High Counselor Vexera. The Meridian's crystalline form gleamed with colors of friendship and respect, emotions that, 2 decades ago, they hadn't fought to express toward a primitive species. The galaxy stands at a crossroads, the Council leader began. The Nexoid threat showed us the vulnerability of depending too heavily on any single approach to technology. Humanity's leadership during the crisis has demonstrated the value of maintaining diverse technological paths. The Council was discussing a radical proposal, the establishment of a new galactic defense initiative that would combine the unique capabilities of all spacefaring species. It was a direct result of the tactics that had won the war. The Arxos energy projectors, synchronized with human electromagnetic disruption and Meridian quantum mechanics, proved far more effective than any individual technology, Admiral Santos explained from her position at the tactical display. We propose formalizing these combinations, creating defense protocols that no adaptive enemy could overcome. The changes went beyond military applications. Trade routes were being redrawn to take advantage of different species' technological strengths. Research institutes were being established to study the integration of various technological approaches. The rigid hierarchy that had placed advanced species above primitive ones was dissolving. 20 years ago, Sarah addressed the Council. The Meridians saved humanity from the Silicon Plague. They could have left us to our fate. After all, we were just another primitive species that had developed technology beyond our ability to control it. But they chose to help us, to give us a chance to learn and grow. She gestured to the tactical displays showing the reformed trade routes and defense networks. In repaying that debt, we discovered something crucial. True advancement isn't about abandoning old methods for new ones. It's about understanding how all approaches can work together. The Nexoids were defeated not because any one species' technology was superior, but because we learned to combine our technologies in ways they couldn't adapt to. High Counselor Vexera's form shimmered with agreement. The humans speak truth. We had become complacent, believing that technological advancement always meant moving away from physical solutions toward energy and quantum-based systems. The Nexoids proved that such linear thinking made us vulnerable. The Council chamber erupted in discussion as representatives debated the implications of this new paradigm. Some species were still uncomfortable with the idea of integrating primitive technology with their advanced systems. Others were eager to explore the possibilities this combination could offer. Marcus Wong, now head of Earth's Quantum Research Institute, presented data showing how the various technologies had synchronized during the war. Each approach has its strengths and weaknesses, he explained. But when we combine them, using each where it's most effective, we create something greater than the sum of its parts. The vote to establish the Galactic Defense Initiative passed almost unanimously. The new organization would be headquartered on Earth, a choice that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. Humanity, once seen as barely worth noticing, was now recognized as a crucial bridge between different technological philosophies. After the session, Sarah found herself back on the observation deck where she'd first watched the Nexoid swarm approach Meridian space. High Counselor Vexera joined her, their crystalline form refracting the starlight. "You never needed to repay the debt," Vexera said softly. "What we did during the Silicon Plague was simply the right thing to do." Sarah smiled. "That's not how humanity sees it. The Meridians gave us a chance when we needed it most. In working to repay that debt, we found our place in the galaxy. Sometimes owing a debt can be a gift. It drives you to become something more than you were." They watched as ships of various species maneuvered through space below them. Human vessels, their primitive designs now respected rather than dismissed, flew in formation with crystalline Meridian ships and energy-based Arxos crafts. Each brought their own strengths to the alliance, creating a defense network that was both diverse and formidable. The Nexoids taught us all a valuable lesson. Vex Erev observed. They believed their ability to adapt made them invincible, but it was actually their greatest weakness. They could only adapt to what they recognized as a threat. By becoming so focused on countering advanced technology, they made themselves vulnerable to simpler approaches. And by focusing only on advancing technology, the galaxy almost made the same mistake. Sarah added, "Sometimes you need to look backward to move forward. The old ways still have value. They just need to be combined with the new in the right way." As the stars wheeled overhead, Sarah reflected on how far humanity had come. From a species struggling with their first quantum experiments to one that had helped reshape galactic civilization. The debt they'd owed the Meridians had been repaid many times over, but its impact would never be forgotten. The galaxy had entered a new age, one where advancement wasn't measured by how far you'd moved away from primitive technology, but by how well you could integrate all available tools. Humanity's greatest contribution hadn't been any particular invention or tactic, but rather the recognition that true progress meant maintaining balance between the old and the new. The Nexoid War had changed everything, not through the destruction it caused, but through the unity it inspired. In facing an enemy that adapted to any single approach, the galaxy had learned the value of diversity, in technology, in tactics, and in thinking. And it had all started with a debt, and a species too primitive to forget it.